What's up, guys? I'm Shane, and welcome to a brand new series. This is the NCAA Relegation League. Now, before we jump into anything else and I explain what's going on, I just want to emphasize this is not replacing the North Texas Dynasty at all. That will keep going as long as you guys want to watch it. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. This is, however, going to replace the Madden franchise. Now, ignore the fact that you see the Buffalo logo up there. That's not important. I'm not a soccer head. Alright, I don't pay enough attention to it, but I know the concept of relegation. I've tried researching some of it, and it just kind of made my brain hurt. I don't know how people follow. There's like 27 leagues. I don't know how you follow it. So I'm going to take the concept of it and sort of twist it a little bit, make it work a little bit better here, and make it work where you can actually understand it. Now, the first thing I did was I realigned every single conference, and I did it as geographically as possible. There's a couple schools that are kind of in weird spots because it didn't work out, but you can split all of it up. You know what, I'm just gonna get into it. All right, so already we're looking at the ACC and things look a little wonky. Now, what I did, like I said, regionally, so the ACC is going to have the schools from Massachusetts, Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, New Jersey, and New York. So these are all the teams that they're all Power 5 schools. They're all in the Power 5 conferences. Now, the teams that aren't in the ACC from those regions, they're chilling over here in the American. So you've got 11 schools right now, but what's going to happen after this first year, and this and the Big 12 are the only ones that actually make sense for how it's going to look going forward. The top 2 teams in the American will advance up to the ACC. And after this season, we're just going to run through this as a sim season, but after this season, the 2 schools at the bottom would relegate back down to the American. But there will be protections. If you win your division, or the conference, or whatever it ends up working out to this first year, you are protected for 1 year. So let's say Virginia Tech and Boston College win the 2 divisions in the ACC. Next year, even if they finish dead last, they cannot be relegated. They've got 1 year of protection. This also applies to any schools moving up. So let's say somehow it's UConn and UMass both advance up into the ACC. Even if they go 0-12 next season, they are protected for 1 year. And the year after that, they can get relegated, but at least they'll have that 1 year. So it's not just back and forth, the same 2 teams going over and over again. All of the Power 5 conferences are going to be 16 teams starting next season, but I didn't want to put anyone up there just guessing, like, yeah, I could probably take Boise State and put them into the Pac-12, no problem, but what do I do with the Big 10? Do I put freaking Toledo in there? How do I know they're going to be any good? What would I do here? Would I put Navy and Old Dominion? Like, what would I do here? Who are the best teams? So I'm going to give them 1 sim season to figure it out. The Big 12, you're already seeing the sore thumb here, but we've got Texas, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma. You've got Wyoming down in Conference USA right now. That's all kind of the same area, but then you have Tennessee. Because I couldn't make it geographically work without having some sort of imbalance. Every single school, what they're going to have is 25 schools between the 2 conferences that make up each sort of division. In order to keep that kind of balance, I had to sort of do this. I could have put Arkansas in here, but it would have been off, and it's just a mess. And down in Conference USA, these are the teams that they're kicking with right now. My beloved North Texas. I used a roster that my friend Austin Owen made. It is the default roster for NCAA, where, you know, QB number 4 and all that kind of stuff for the names. He went through and updated all of the coaches, made them, you know, everything accurate. Unfortunately, he did it like 2 days before the head coach at Michigan State, D'Antoni, before he stepped down. So he's probably still going to be the coach, but I can fix that later. Technically, the American is not a Power 5 conference. Even though they advance forward later on, who was it? It's Rutgers, I believe, is in the Big 12 now. But right now they're sitting in the American because technically, according to this game, they were still in a Group of 5 school, or Group of 5 conference. The Big 10, and now you kind of see why I have to advance 1 year. There are only 11 schools in this conference. Because, again, like I said, I'm not taking Group of 5 schools and just putting them up here because they should be here. But the Big 10, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, which is dominating everywhere else, Kentucky, Missouri, and Wisconsin. They are tied to the MAC conference. As you see, there's 14 teams here right now, so we're going to have 5 schools advancing after this season. You've got the East Division is 100% made up of Ohio teams. And in the West makes up everything else. What's funny about the Pac-12 and the Mountain West Conference is I didn't really have to do much with them. I moved a couple teams in the Mountain West, but all I did here is I just sort of shuffled it around so all of the California schools are together. And oh, if you haven't noticed, I renamed the divisions. I'm sick of seeing East and West. I didn't bother with the group of 5 schools because they're not going to have divisions anymore after this season. So Pac-12 is going to have the Mountain and the Pacific, and I did with the Big 12. They're going to have the Lone Star, because it's pretty much going to all be Texas teams, and the Red River, because I couldn't think of a better second name for that. The Big 10 will be keeping Leaders and Legends whenever I get them back up to 16, and the ACC, I actually like their division title, so they're staying. Mountain West, again, not too much change. I added BYU and New Mexico State to the Mountain Division because I took Wyoming and put them in Conference USA, and otherwise they're identical to what they were. Oh, have the mighty have fallen. The SEC... still rocking with all of these top schools because they get Florida State now. But the SEC is going to be Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi. But obviously, again, they only have 11. They are going to be the Glades and the Bayou divisions. In the Sun Belt, 14 teams down here. So again, 5 schools are advancing here, 4 out of the Mountain West. You're going to see a lot of these schools that, who knows? I mean, I've simmed this before just sort of casually. And I had like UL Monroe and UL Lafayette as the top 2 in this division. So all of a sudden you got the SEC with UL Monroe as a potential contender in one division. It's the weirdest thing that can happen because you never know with injuries and stuff like that. Now, there's a couple other baseline rules that are going to be at play here. The biggest one is I'm going to crank up the difficulty more than what I have in North Texas. So the slider is going to be the toughest sliders I've ever played at. We're starting right at Heisman. Now, North Texas, I can make that look as easy as I want right now, but I'm playing with a 99 overall offense at the time of this recording, and even at 50-50 sliders on Heisman, I can annihilate all of the smaller schools. Well, here we're going to be playing at harder sliders, and we're going to be a crap team, I think. I don't know. That's going to be up to you guys, like the title of the video says. What we're going to do, because the Relegation League, this is going to be going for a long time, but I don't want it to get stale. So what we're going to do... and I don't want you to confuse with a coaching carousel kind of dynasty. So what's going to happen is every time 5 years pass or I win a national championship, whichever one comes first, we are going to switch schools. Now, this is sort of make up for the fact that in this series, I'm not going to be naming prospects after whatever you guys suggest in the comments, because the whole point of this is it's a side project, so I'm going to bulk record it. So you might be seeing... the next episode, and I might have a season and a half already recorded ahead of time. This just gives me a chance to sort of build up more of a buffer and get more content to you guys. But again, like I said, you're going to pick the school I have. So when we get to the end of this episode, I'm going to give you a list of schools. It's going to be 45 schools. Don't get overwhelmed. And I'm going to take suggestions, go with the most popular one, and that's the school that we're going to go with going forward. The only other big thing is every single conference, they start their conference play in week 1 now. I don't know if that's going to make any sort of difference. But when it comes to the end of the season, basically the team's getting relegated or promoted. It's the tiebreaker is going to be the conference record. Now, if I have a team that's like 1-11, but I have another team that's 4-8 and somehow lost all of their conference games and those were their only losses, then I'm probably going to go with the lesser team and relegate them if I have to choose between the two of them. But it's going to make more sense going forward. So I'm going to stop rambling now. And we're going to jump all the way forward to the end of bowl season so I can get the final standings and everything like that. And we can figure out who's getting moved around where. Oh, and I did forget one last thing. You do have to leave at least one school in the independents. And I decided it's going to be Notre Dame because I feel like everything could be crumbling and Notre Dame will still not align to a football conference. They're just going to think they're above all this relegation crap and just stay over there. Good for you guys. All right, so here we are. We're at the end of bowl season. We're about to advance forward into the off season. And let's just flip through the standings real quick, figure out where everyone's going to go. Also, Ohio State won the title. And no, you don't get any special protections for winning the national title. You should be good anyways. And if you fall all the way to last place 2 years later, you deserve to get relegated regardless. Now, looking at the Power 5 conferences, none of this stuff actually matters to us this year other than the teams that will be protected. So in the ACC, South Carolina's protected next year, and Virginia Tech gets the protection in the Coastal. Now, as far as the teams moving up, it is going to be Appalachian State, and it's going to be Marshall. Both of them 7-1, clear cut. I mean, Navy and Buffalo had pretty good seasons down here, but these guys were just outstanding all around. And I am going to have to shuffle it around because App State is out of North Carolina. Marshall's out of West Virginia. So I think South Carolina is going to go to the Coastal. Big 12, Texas A&M easily won their division. And Nebraska won theirs. So they will both be protected going forward. So Conference USA, it looks like it's going to be Houston and UTEP moving up. Big 10 did not have any division, so Ohio State will be the only team with the protection going forward. And the teams joining them will be Toledo and Miami University out of the East, and Louisville, Ball State, and Western Kentucky out of the West. Pac-12, Oregon will get the protection in the Mountain. Stanford gets the protection out of the Pacific. No, see, this is where they trick you. It's actually USC who's going to get it because they went to the conference championship game and lost. But technically it drops them down. That's stuff I got to pay attention to. Out of the Mountain West Conference, no surprise, it's going to be Boise State, Colorado State, and on the west side, Fresno State and Hawaii. Now again, here's where it's going to look a little weird. Hawaii went 5-7, BYU went 7-6, but the conference record, Hawaii went 5-3. So in something like this, I'm going to weigh that more because I don't know what BYU's out of conference was. They could have played a bunch of FCS scrubs. So I'm just going to go by the conference record where it's somewhat close. Out of the SEC, it looks like Florida's the one getting the protection because they have the tiebreaker over Georgia Tech. Georgia goes 11-2, but lost, so they don't even get to win their conference. And in the Sun Belt, you've got UL Lafayette, who I believe I'm just supposed to be calling Louisiana, but the game is not updated. So Louisiana, Arkansas State will both advance up to the SEC. You will also have Florida Atlantic, UCF, and FIU all moving on up. All right, we're going to jump forward one more time, get into the custom conferences, just so you guys can see exactly what it looks like. Because I think just me telling you is a little confusing. All right, here we are. All the conferences are all set now. This is what we'll be looking at year one. And obviously, I'm going to show you guys a pool of teams you can pick from. So first off, the ACC. Atlantic is Boston College, Clemson, Marshall, Maryland, Penn State, Pitt, Syracuse, and West Virginia. The Coastal is Appalachian State, Duke, NC State, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. In the Atlantic, Marshall is protected. They cannot get relegated this year. And in the Coastal, Appalachian State, South Carolina, and Virginia Tech are all protected. In the Big 12, the Lone Star, living up to its name, Baylor, Houston, Nebraska, TCU, Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, and UTEP. And in the Red River, you got Iowa, Iowa State, Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. A lot of states in that one. And all of the protections are in the Lone Star division. You've got Houston, UTEP, Nebraska, and Texas A&M. So a little bit of an imbalance. That means everyone in the Red River is at risk of relegation. In the Big 10, the Leaders Division, you got Kentucky, Louisville, Miami of Ohio, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Toledo, and Western Kentucky. In the Legends Division, you got Ball State, Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota, Missouri, Northwestern, Purdue, and Wisconsin. Most of the protections are in the Leaders. You've got Louisville, Miami, Ohio State, Toledo, and Western Kentucky. And in the Legends, you've only got Ball State. Pac-12 Mountain, you got Boise State, Colorado, Colorado State, Oregon, Oregon State, Utah, Washington, and Washington State. And in the Pacific, Arizona, Arizona State, Cal, Fresno State, Hawaii, Stanford, UCLA, and USC. The protections are actually evenly distributed here. You got Boise State, Colorado State, and Oregon in the Mountain. You've got Fresno State, Hawaii, and USC as protected in the Pacific. And now for the rebuilt SEC. The Bayou, you got Alabama, Arkansas, Arkansas State, Auburn, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and UL Lafayette. Louisiana, I'm sorry, I'll get it right eventually. In the Glades, you've got FIU, Florida, FAU, Florida State, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Miami, and UCF. The protections here in the Bayou, you've got Arkansas State and Louisiana. And in the Glades, you've got FIU, Florida, Florida Atlantic, and UCF. All right, with that out of the way, we're going to take a look at the teams that are eligible to be selected for me to play as. I'm in the team stat screen because it gives you the prestige and the overall, so if you want to pick based on that, you can take a look at it. Unfortunately, they have the old schools, so we're going to have to skip over them. So in the American, we've got Rutgers, Buffalo, Navy, East Carolina, Connecticut, Temple, Old Dominion, UMass, and Army. You saw it in the beginning, Buffalo's my favorite team, no bias. Conference USA, we've got Wyoming, Tulsa, UTSA, SMU, Memphis, Mid-Tennessee State, Rice, North Texas, Texas State, and I'm going to strike one off. We cannot be North Texas. There's a whole series already dedicated to that one. In the MAC Conference, we've got Cincinnati, Ohio, Central Michigan, Bowling Green, Kent State, Northern Illinois, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, and Akron. Oh my god, Akron is terrible. In the Mountain West, we've got Utah State, BYU, San Jose State, San Diego State, Nevada, UNLV, Air Force, New Mexico State, and New Mexico. And finally, in the Sun Belt, we have Louisiana Tech, USF, UL Monroe, Tulane, Georgia State, UAB, South Alabama, Troy, and Southern Miss. And again, no bias, but I love ULM's uniform, so I wouldn't mind seeing them either. So those are all your choices. Now don't worry about it. I know there's a ton. Obviously, 45 schools to pick between gives you a pretty broad spectrum, but I'm going to let you guys just sort of decide on it, what you want to see. I'll just sort of go with a consensus, or basically if it's somehow like a tie, I'll just pick the one I want. Again, this is going to go for a while, and it's only going to be, if I win the BCS championship in like year 2, that's it. That's the end of this team. We move on to the next one. If I can't get it done, then after 5 years, we're just going to be out anyways. Or, you know, I guess if I'm like stuck, it's like year 3 and I'm still not out of the relegation, then we'll jump to someone else. But we'll keep it fresh and we'll keep mixing it up. This way, you guys can always pick a different school. It allows me to bulk record a little bit. It's a win-win for all of us. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, please be sure to hit like down below. If you're ready to see where this series goes, as well as everything else I put on the channel, please be sure to subscribe. Hit that notification bell to see exactly which team we're going to select. Obviously, down in the comment section below, let me know what school I should pick. I'm not going to be biased. I know there's a couple teams I prefer over others, but there's like, 126 schools that you can choose from that are just built into the game. And honestly, I wouldn't mind doing a Dynasty with like 100 of them. So I'm not going to be mad no matter who you guys pick. Really, like, it doesn't matter which team, no matter how terrible, I'm not going to be mad about it. Everything you leave in the comment section, I will always respond to, unless you are the trolliest trolls. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Shane. I'm out.